time. This is the main base of SKillous.
And poor SKillous sends out a probe immediately as the game starts against this player in the bottom left, the red Zerg, going for a 12 pool. It is Serral. Oh, Roddy, he sends out the early probe, sacrifices early mining to try and block the hatch. And in a second, he's going to realize there is no hatch, Roddy. There was never going to be a hatch here.
Nope. Well, there probably is going to be a hatch eventually.
For the first few minutes.
Yeah. I think at this point, SKillous is like, wait a minute, why didn't I see a drone yet? And he's like, oh my goodness, you don't have any drones at all. And that spawning pool is done already, so... At this point, SKillous knows he can still try to block this hatchery for a split second, but we can see that Serral doesn't even have the minerals at this point to build the hatch here. I find it interesting that he warps in the pylon. Maybe he's trying to shebait the Zerglings to stick around here, and that's obviously going to make his defense on his side of the map a little bit easier. This is interesting. It costs 25 minerals, but I think I'm okay with it. What?
Oh!
Okay. I don't like it anymore, Ravi. What was that?
Not a huge fan of it either, Kev. And usually I'm with you. I'm a bit worried that, you know, your second bit of the wall is going to be coming up a bit late. The buildings don't have as many hit points, so the Lings start whittling away at them before, you know, a stalker or something comes out. And I do want to note that, yeah, the Cyber Court is getting closer and closer to finishing, but there's no range units. He's just relying on the Zealots here. And now down to 100 minerals. I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of worried for SKillous.
Yeah, he should still be fine. I mean, this is a big map, even though that's quite a few Lings, by the way. There are 10 Lings out on the map right now. I think with 2 Zealots, you should be fine. Just don't get surrounded, right? Don't lose one of your Lings recklessly, and he does get surrounded. Actually, both of them get caught in an awkward position. Only one goes down, but I think Serral is just going to fight the second Zealot in the choke point. That is exactly what happens. And I think the biggest victory here for Serral is that if we take a look at the Nexus, that Nexus is still not there. SKillous has been wasting a lot of money up to this point, losing a pylon. He lost 2 Zealots now. It's even risky for SKillous to send his Adept to the other side of the map, because that would mean that his door is wide open, and then slow Zerglings, yeah, they may not seem that intimidating, but if you have to deal with 5 or 6 slow Zerglings in your main base, that's still super annoying. So he can't really make that call right now, and altogether, this was a pretty successful start for Serral, I'd say.
Yeah, well, we see a Twilight Council coming out over here for SKillous. But Roddy, when you are a Protoss player and you have your early build order messed up like this, are there certain types of builds or attacks and things that you just say, I can't do anymore, this is too reliant on a narrow window or timing, and I'm just going to be hitting late, it's not worth it anymore?
Yeah, I often feel that whenever you get 12 pools, in your mind, you're like, okay, 12 pool is not good for the Zerg economy, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit them with this really hard tier 2 attack. But because your entire build is thrown off already, it's also a bit harder to deny scouting, and you actually lost a lot of your own initial minerals as well. So I actually think the best thing you can do is just play it safe, go for the 3-base scenario at least, and don't put all your eggs in one basket with a 2-base timing attack, because those rarely work against 12 pool openings.
All right, well, Serral is still going for the Zergling speed upgrade, and well, going for the Dark Shrine is kind of interesting, because I guess you do get your Gas Geyser a little bit later when you go for the 12 pool opening and still want to get up the hatchery. So maybe the lair comes down a little bit later. Maybe this Dark Shrine can make some magic happen. Interestingly enough, yeah, we don't really see a Robo coming out with it. So it is just a Dark Shrine for now, but I mean, the Warp Prism is not going to actually be there on the other side of the map, ready to warp in time for the Dark Shrine to finish.
Yeah, these kind of games are always a bit different, right? Because all the timings are just so different than what we used to. I would cancel this Shade for sure, and that is exactly what SKillous is going to do. So he finds himself in the natural Serral now and not getting a lot of drone damage yet, but I would like to see him leave 2 Adepts behind here, actually. I think that'd be a very sweet play. He leaves all of them behind, so he's going to pick off a few more drones here, and you know, altogether for Adepts without Resonating Glaives, I don't think this was all that bad.
Yeah, you actually, of course, I can see that 3 drones died, but even a handful of Lings got picked off over there, so it's definitely something, considering I think that was never going to get absurd amounts of damage or anything done, like you said. No Resonating Glaives, but Dark Shrine is now finished up. Where is that first warp? And they are moving across the map over toward the 3rd base. There's already a Spore Crawler there. I think 2 DTs are not enough to actually pick off a Spore right now.
No, So I think the SKillous is going to go for some guaranteed damage. There are a lot of Zerglings on the other side of the map,
no.
and this is bad for SKillous. SKillous is, I think, a little bit too occupied on his Dark Templar harass. He lost the pilot, and he will cancel the Nexus, but obviously being forced to cancel your Nexus is a big loss as well. The DTs didn't get much done. This honestly was one of these moments where if SKillous would have done nothing and just focused on defending, I don't think he's in that bad of a position. But because he tried to get fancy and like split up Dark Templars over multiple bases while going up to 3 bases himself, I mean, he's actually getting punished over here by Serral pretty hard.
Oh, Kev. Losing all of these gateway units is going to be able to keep one of these Adepts alive. But man, even loses the probe. Still doesn't have a pylon over at that 3rd base for warpins or any kind of defensive plays or anything. Finally, an Observer is going to come out so he can begin Robo Immortal production, I have to assume. But Lynx is going to be coming out for the Stalkers. I mean, it's going to be useful versus the Spire at least.
Yes, but I don't think he knows about this fire. Oh my goodness. He uses recall there on the Dark Templar that gets actually picked off by the Roaches and Queens as well. I mean, this is an amazing Spire because SKillous, I don't think, is ever thinking about Mutas at this point, right? Like, he did not... Well, he actually saw this fire. I don't know how he saw this fire or with what, but...
I wonder if the DTs got far enough back in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe he does know then.
And I do like the fact that since he's seen the Spire, he's getting up these shield batteries, and Adepts are going to try and come in, get a bit more damage on. He sees the Mutas that have already popped already now. But yeah, against Mutas, if you do have the shield batteries in the mineral line, like he's getting another one in his main base, it can buy a lot of time versus low numbers of Mutas.
Yeah, the shield battery in the main is not really done yet, and the natural is definitely a target as well. I mean, Blink is still 25 seconds away or so from finishing up, and even losing 7 or 8 probes here actually hurts so much, because Serral has done this a lot in the past, where he opens up with a Spire. This is a build that he used very frequently against Neep in like 2018, 2019, where it's like a couple Mutas, they find some damage, they force out a pretty big reaction, right? Some static defenses, a couple probes go down, and then you blink twice. You look at the supplies right now, there is like a 30-40 supply difference, which is already kind of big actually. Even like 40 supply is a pretty big deal in this phase in the game. If you fast forward this game 2 minutes now, Serral is maxed out and SKillous is hovering around like 115 supply, and that makes it an almost impossible defense.
It's a very, very tough spot right now for SKillous. I even love that Serral had the exact number of Mutas still left over to one-shot workers despite the shield battery being there. So still manages to get himself up to 13 kills. And now here we go. A handful of these Lynx going to be coming forward a bit ahead of the rest of the army. And actually after seeing that army, SKillous just says, no, I actually don't need to move out right now, and just pulls back. Possibly to deal with some harassment that I think is happening in his 3rd.
I gotta say, SKillous is very aggressive oriented in this game, right? Despite the fact that a lot of things, it felt like it wasn't really going his way, he's still trying to be as annoying and obnoxious as possible with just a couple of adepts. The random Dark Templar that really shouldn't be there anymore, still looking for that little bit of damage. Goes for a proper scout here of hallucinated phoenixes, and I don't think he's going to be too happy with what he sees, knowing that Serral's already on 4 bases. And don't forget that these Mutas are actually still alive.
Yeah. The Mutas are still extremely annoying to deal with right now. And again, they can still just one-shot the probes through the shield battery healing and won't really matter anymore. But as much as obviously this is going to be a very, very painful game to watch finish, I do like that SKillous is at least, while being behind, tried to get something done. He's always being aggressive, even when it hasn't worked out previously. I mean, if he just plays defensive and safe, there's no way he pulls this game back versus Serral, I feel.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really have a choice. Moving out at this point is not an option. So you're just hoping for the shield batteries to do some magic, and then the best blinks and force fields of all time. So far, he's honestly not doing that bad of a job, but Serral is getting a lot of value out of these Mutas. At this point, only a single Mutalisk has gone down, but he managed to kill 25 probes. Like, how is that even possible?
Kind of absurd. Behind this, Serral goes for his Hive Tech, is getting some upgrades up a little bit ahead of his opponent, with +1 melee finishing up and +2 melee on the way. Another Evo Chamber getting started to start up some Carapace upgrades. And SKillous is still just stuck on this 3-base setup, trying to build up a large enough army that he can not only push back these mutas, but maybe even think about like a fourth base or something. It's either that or you just go for a big Doom push on 140 or 150 supply.
I mean, SKillous does have Storm. He's got terrible upgrades, right? Because +1 isn't even done yet, while Serral is already working on +2 and even +1 armor. But Storm doesn't care too much. Serral is very heavy on the Banelings. This is that moment. SKillous 150 supply. Serral maxed out on Roach, Ling, Ravager, Bane. Obviously, the great thing about Serral is that he is actually going up to Hive during all of this. Let's see if SKillous can deal with the Banelings. He's actually kind of moving out of position. Those High Templars are going to go down, at least one of them. A lot of probes are going to go down as well, and this obviously opens up the door for Serral on the top side. Drops a couple of good corrosive piles, of course, somehow those connect as well. And Serral won't even stick around long enough for SKillous to drop a Storm.
Yeah, he's already done the damage, and he's going up to Broodlords. The Broodlords are the ultimate "this game is over" move at this point, where Serral has kept SKillous back, sitting on these 3 bases, not really getting any additional tech, just warping in Stalkers, High Templars, and Archons. And that the Stalkers can deal with maybe a low Broodlord count. It's a temporary measure if there's not a ground army. Serral has the ground army. This is his final hurrah right now for SKillous.
Yep, we need Storm Magic. A lot of Banelings actually coming in from the bottom. Oh no, I have no idea how SKillous is going to protect his army. I think the answer is he is not going to. Corrosive Ball in the center of the Stalker pack as well. And there was a Protoss army. It's gone now.
Balin busted down to ashes. The mutas have already identified that, yeah, one of those shield batteries did get taken out by the Baneling run by earlier. Just go ham on that 3rd base. Yes, it does look like SKillous still has an army here, but with the reinforcements coming on in, Serral's going to obliterate one Archon and just wipe the rest of this Protoss army off the face of the map. Even the Warp Prism getting taken out now, and I think that Serral sitting up triple the supply has earned himself the first game.
Beautifully played by Serral. I honestly feel a key moment in this game is, I think when SKillous got a little ahead of himself and he tried to get fancy with the Dark Templar harassment and really trying to split them up across multiple bases, which is, at that point, you can't attack move with DTs, because if you attack move, the DTs are like, oh, there's a queen, and you don't want that. So you're trying to manually control your Dark Templars to snipe workers one by one. And while that was happening, he just left his 3rd Nexus a little too exposed. Serral didn't have a lot of links. What was that, like 14, 16 Zerglings? But those links actually gave Serral such a big lead in this game. And, well, Serral with a lead. I think we all know where those games go in general.
Yeah, ended up being a pretty brutal finish there as Serral, again, now sitting up 1-0. SKillous is going to be heading to Submarine. Definitely one of the maps we don't see as often right now in this event, and a map that a lot of people have tried to steer clear from. Roddy, what are your thoughts on this map?
I mean, I actually kind of like it. First of all, I think it's beautiful, okay? The very first time I loaded into Submarine, I was like, the colors are different. This is beautiful. I'm feeling it. I'm liking it. I actually think this map is very fun. Like, I know a lot of Protoss players will immediately veto it against Terran because they're like, oh my god, the tank push. But because of that, I actually think you can do really fun stuff. And you can open up with like charge instead of blink. You can make your blink opening look like charge, or you can let your charge opening look like blink, I guess. I mean, a charge opening is not really a thing, but I actually I enjoy different maps. I mean, I'm obviously kind of a casual player, right? I'm passionate, I'm dedicated, I'm diehard, but I'm a casual compared to the pros. And I actually have a good time on Submarine. I understand why a lot of professional Protoss players don't like it. Even against Zerg, I think, you know, the distance is so short, it's a bit tricky, but let's see why SKillous decides that he wants to play Submarine. I'm feeling maybe a Blink Stalker all in, but I have no idea, mate.
So, okay, Roddy, I'm glad you brought up the Blink Stalker all in, because this is something I've seen time and time again Protoss players try and do. And it's one of those things where I inherently trust that so many good, amazingly good Protoss players have tried to do this lately. And I have never, maybe once or twice, seen the Blink Stalker all-in workout versus Zerg. I know there's got to be a reason, but you got to explain it to me.
No, I heard you say this, and I was like, I was listening to you cast. I don't know with who you were casting. Maybe that was yesterday with Roddy. Yeah. And I heard you say that, and I was actually nodding behind my screen. I was just sitting here alone in the dark, you know, having a cheeky whiskey or something by myself. And I was nodding. I was like, you know what, Ravi? I'm with you. They keep on trying this, and I don't really see it work either. But anyway, we'll talk more about the Blink Stalker builds real soon. Top left side of Submarine. Look in the main base of the young Russian. It's SKillous.
And down in the bottom right, the red Zerg player. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The 12 pooler. It is Serral.
Now, obviously, Submarine is a lot shorter than Ice and Chrome. So I kind of understand that if you enjoy 12 pool on Ice and Chrome, you may as well do it on Submarine too. I also think that 12 pool is in general pretty good against these Protoss players who like to send out one of their very first workers immediately to get the hatch block going, right?
Oh, so sneaky.
You know, Serral hiding it as well. He's kind of lacking the... I want to say he's lacking the minerals, but he's not. How did that happen?
Did he maybe he like set it down to go build it at the third base for a second and then canceled it? That might have been the case.
Yeah,
all right.
I was looking in his bank. But yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good response against the Protoss players who like to send their very first probe to the other side of the map, because that may not seem like a big deal, but that's kind of a big deal for the Protoss economy. So in this way, Protoss suffers, and you force them to respond to your 12 pool, so they suffer twice, right? Because defending against 12 pool also costs quite a few minerals. So I actually kind of like it by Serral.
That gateway is so much surface area on it, and I feel like this is actually going to become a little bit more problematic. It goes down a bit faster than maybe otherwise a gateway would, just because all of the lings can attack it. Now the probes being pulled off the line, one probe already falling, and so far no lings have died.
Nope. Oh, that's actually a really good fight so far for Serral.
Oh my god.
Zealot goes down. Now a lot of probes are going to fire. That is so many Zerglings. If Serral gets the surround, that could be game ending. Serral does not get the surround, but this is still so awkward for SKillous at this point.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I get a little bit afraid there because I think the Zerg player might just go for the pylon and end the game right then and there, but the Adept was on its way out. Serral is just going to try and go for the guaranteed safe damage. He feels confident that as this game goes on, he's going to be just fine, and he's going to maybe be able to try and get surrounded on the Adept. It does narrowly manage to escape and get back to the wall, and Zealot gets surrounded again, though, and they don't care that the Adept is picking a few of them off. They're going for that next.
Yep. I mean, this Adept has quite some work to do now. Serral is actually just going to leave with the links. He's like, I don't have Zergling speed. I don't want to stick around longer than I should, but I mean, it's safe to say that this was a very successful opening for Serral as well. Even way more successful than Ice and Chrome was. I mean, it's 23 workers on either side, but Serral's hatchery is done. And the best thing is for Serral, that it's not just that, okay, they're tied up on the workers. There are scenarios where Zerg players lose all their lings, and then they have to worry about the silliest counterattack of all time of the 2 Zealots and the Adept, right? And that sounds really silly, but then you're forced to build more Zerglings. Queens are running around and not injecting. The Adept might pick off a drone or two. That's not the case either, because Serral picked off both Zealots. So not only is he in a good economic spot, he has nothing to worry about on his side of the map. TLDR, great start for the Jonas Satala again.
Yeah, now there are 2 Adepts out, so this is enough that he may decide to finish up one of these shades if these queens are so far on the front lines. Just to try and right-click down a few drones, but those 5 Zerglings look like he doesn't want to try and commit over there. Even a few more Zerglings being added on. Twilight Council had finished up behind all this for SKillous. He adds on a Robo as well. Overload's going to come in. Do we have any research going to be starting on that Twilight Council, or is he going to even wait for the Overlord to get picked off?
I mean, since this map is so small, I actually wouldn't hate a Dark Shrine build again, but after a start like this, I have a really hard time imagining a world where SKillous pulls off a miracle and be like, yeah, that's actually something I'd love to see. Like, I'm even like I'm this desperate at this point, as these Adepts get picked up as well, that I would have actually loved to see like double Stargate out of nowhere. And I know that doesn't make any sense, but then maybe like if Serral makes a couple of roaches, there's not much he can do. But then again, this map is so small that the roaches can just all run to the other side of the map, and then Phoenixes won't have that much of an impact either. I don't know, Ravi. It's not looking pretty for SKillous.
Yeah, well, the Dark Shrine coming on up. There is a layer starting up, and Spore, I was just about to say, no Spores just yet, but this first Spore is getting started. So Serral is going to have more than just potential for Overseers to be made. He's also going to have his detection already squared away. He's thinking about how could SKillous potentially win this game? How could he make something happen over here? And he's answering those questions before they even happen.
Yeah, I love that you say that. I think in general, if you're super far ahead in a game of StarCraft 2, just ask yourself the questions like, how can I still lose? And obviously Dark Templar is diving on top of a hatchery when the Spore isn't there or you don't have an Overseer in position. That's the way to still lose a game. Now, this game is obviously not 100% over because like shield batteries can make magic happen if you're just defending, or maybe Serral does end up losing an Overseer. It's just that it's not looking pretty right now for SKillous, and that's why Serral is playing this very safe, and he's kind of going down the checklist, right? He's just checking all the boxes.
Yeah, and I get the decision to just go straight into the Archons. I was actually going to say the one thing was that there wasn't an Overseer morphed in just yet, and I could have seen a world where, you know, you drop off the 4 DTs in the main, where there is a lair. If you get the first swipe off on that before the Overseer is started, you actually kill the lair 100% of the time. So I was hoping maybe still to make something happen there, but this third base. Oh, not again, Roddy.
No, I feel like we've seen this before. The Adepts don't save the day. There are 4 more Adepts showing up right now. This Nex is taking a lot of damage. The Lynx really want to get it. The Adepts will save it. They will save it.
Oh my god, that got so close. That Nexus is going to be finishing up with less than half of its hit points, I think, though. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's just going to be a juicy target later for Serral. We're still just a couple workers ahead. He didn't want to get too carried away because, once again, very small map. That also means that as a Zerg player, you can't just blindly drone up to like 66 drones where, you know, I'm sure a lot of them would love to do that. But that's the way to easily lose as well against like 8 Zealots with charge and 2 Archons showing up out of nowhere. So Serral has actually played this super safe, and he's just not giving any openings to SKillous.
Depths are even getting caught by the roaches. One of them at least should be going down over here with some good focus fire. There's one. The rest of them will shade on out. But I think they actually don't shade into the super safe spot because more roaches are actually on the way over there. SKillous is just trying to clear up some creeps. So he's just trying to give Serral something to be afraid of. And to his credit, Serral's only on 56 drones, but I don't think that's because he's afraid. I think it's because he's looking to become a fearful person.
Yep.
Something to be fearful of.
Well, he's all of that and more in my eyes, okay? So, I mean, Serral's doubling the army supply. SKillous needs the whole of a lifetime, and the natural actually kind of looks like a juicy target there, as not a single shield battery is ready at this point. There's also only a single pylon there, by the way. If you lose that pylon, that would be disastrous. Couple force fields go down, but the Ravager count is so high that Serral will take care of these force fields, and he's getting right on top of the army of SKillous.
Yeah, the Immortals are trying to do their best with the War Prism just be juggled up, try and do some more damage. But remember that Nexus that was also lower on hit points? Well, even less time that SKillous can buy over here. He's already lost the majority of the army. 35 army supply to 108. Serral will not be stopped. Serral is going to continue his perfect record in the group so far as he starts to destroy the remaining buildings and army over here for SKillous. And is looking to not drop a single map so far in this group.
5-0.